And now for our feature presentation.
You're listening to the JB and Goldwater Show. Live, loud, and online.
Puts it up. Whoa! There goes Davis. Oh my God! Davis is going to run it all the way back. Auburn's going to win the football game. American Soul is finally the one. American Soul has won the Triple Crown. And Bonds hit play high. It's a deep. It is out of here. High fly ball into right field. She is gone. Unbelievable. A home run for Gibson.
Here are your hosts, Jamie Bradford and Darren Goldwater.
All right, greetings and a good Wednesday afternoon, and welcome aboard the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online, July the 29th. It is a shade afternoon. We're here for the next 2 hours. Darren Goldwater to my left, at Darren Goldwater on Twitter. I am at Sports Radio JB. Collectively, we are at JB and Goldwater across all social media platforms. You can listen on the Podbean app. You can watch on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Periscope. And you can go to jbandgoldwatershow.com for all of that information and much, much more. If you're ever like, oh, man, where can I listen or watch? Just go to jbandgoldwatershow.com. That will tell you. And you can support our partners there as well. 843-321-8893 is our phone number, 843-321-8893. We will take calls today. If you'd like to give us a shout, do it. 843-321-8893. Matter of fact, I'll tweet that out here in just a moment. And if somebody'd like to be a part of what we do, have at it. J.C. Sherbert is always a part of what we do on Wednesdays. He'll join us live from Chicago, Illinois at 12:30. The owner of thebigspur.com is part of the 24/7 Sports Network. We'll talk to him about what we've been talking about, essentially, for the last, 4 months. But with some twists and turns, we do have some updates to get to you here in just a moment. We'll also give you some good news in Columbia, South Carolina, and we'll talk to JC about that. Certainly makes their one of their position groups much deeper, but it was expected. We've got some baseball news and notes to get to from last night, including, what would you do if you had a brawl in baseball right now? All this, everything that's going on with the Marlins. Don't touch, don't touch, don't touch, and then you'd have a bunch of dudes going out there throwing haymakers. That would be a little bit of an issue. Hold on. Before you hit me, let me go grab my mask. So we'll get to some baseball stuff. We do have some more college football news and notes to get to, some interesting situations at Florida State, one out at Arizona, certainly, and much, much more. So glad you're part of our program. Darren, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, man. I, have some optimism flowing through me just a little bit here today. Got good news that the Phillies, second straight day, none of them have tested positive after hanging out with the Marlins on the field for a couple of days, so that's good. Maybe it's contained to one thing. We got news from the ACC. We got JC. It's a good day.
It's a good day. Let me tell you why it's actually a really good day. No, before I get there.
Oh.
Because you already know. We do have the National Day calendar, and we're going to give you one of those National Days early in a minute.
Uh-huh.
But let me tell you why it's a really good day.
Oh, okay.
So I walked outside this morning right around 8:30 to take my daughters to daycare.
Okay.
And I hit the button, the garage door opened, and I'm walking Riley to the car door.
Uh-oh.
And I stopped, and I looked around, and I looked at Carrie. I said, "Do you feel that?" She said, "What?" And I said, "That crisp breeze." It's not humid. It actually feels good out here. It felt really good. And she said, "It does feel good outside." And I looked at my phone. I said, "Uh-huh." 1 month from today, college football starts. The college football gods are sending the positive vibes, my friends.
I'm good for that, man.
They said, hey, look, Charleston's been a melting pot for the last month or so, 20 straight days of 90-plus heat. Let's give them a little glimpse of what's to come, which is fall weather and football. So thank you, college football gods, for sending that this morning, at least to my doorstep.
Look, man, all sports have the gods, right? We know that. Golf has the gods. You don't want to upset the golf gods. You don't want to upset the baseball gods.
Yeah, I've done that a lot.
You really don't want to do that. And you don't want to upset the football gods. But the football gods are doing what they can right now.
Yeah.
They're working. They're working hard, man.
Yeah,
football gods are working.
Working right alongside the Power 5 commissioners, no doubt.
Yeah. They're doing everything they can to make sure that all of us
That's
can get what we want.
No question. But in saying that, let's make it an even better day.
Oh.
Because this is not everybody's favorite segment just yet. There are a couple of other days to celebrate today. And if you're just tuning into our program and you're one of those, I listen to you to talk about sports, well, then where the hell have you been for the last 3 weeks? Because we haven't talked about anything but sports.
This, where you're going, this is sports.
This is sports.
This is sports.
You don't have sports without this. It's National Chicken Wing Day, guys and gals. It's National Chicken Wing Day. What is the best chicken wing you've ever had?
My favorite in town, I'll go with that, is without question Dog and Duck.
I can get behind that. They have they and home team smoked wings are the best I've had.
So if you want to go smoked, I'm with you. But when I'm a wing, when I want wings with flavor, not just the smokiness to them.
Okay.
I want either medium or hot, or the combination of medium teriyaki that I get from Dog and Duck, which is fantastic. And I have them cook those things till they're just dead, man. I have them drop 15, 20 minutes, pop on out, and I've got them up on the screen right now.
Yeah, those
Wings
are the Dog and Duck ones.
Uh-huh.
One of our partners around here.
That's right. Those I will be consuming those in approximately 2 hours and maybe 20 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And while you're on vacation at home this week. Hopefully you won't be wearing lipstick because it's also National Lipstick Day. So if I catch you with lipstick on, this show is officially over.
Wouldn't work well with the wings, man.
No.
I'll have medium sauce lipstick.
Yeah, don't do that. And it's also National Lasagna Day.
Oh.
My Aunt Mart, major props to my Aunt Mart. She makes the world's best lasagna. Oh, now I really want some.
Yeah.
But it is National Chicken Wing Day. I think it's kind of a shame that both of these days are the same day. You can't really celebrate both in the same day. You could, but I wouldn't advise it.
No, you need to. Both of those are pretty filling. You need to separate
those
that
are
out.
Heavy meals.
Yeah. You got to separate that.
Let me tell you, the best chicken wing that I've ever had in my life. When I was in college, and up until 2 years ago when they closed, but they'll be back. There was a place, and I'll ask JC about this because I bet he knows. There was a place in 5 Points that was a bar, and I'll just say what bar it was. And when people hear this, they're going to go, what? It was called Jungle Jim's, basically Jungle Jim's crap hole. It was the worst bar ever. All right, but it's where all the athletes went. We all hung out there, and everybody knew each other, and it was really cheap, and it was just a dump. But Mo, Ramon is his name. We all called him Mo. One of the bartenders, also worked in the kitchen. The quote kitchens in 5 Points, which are non-existent. Basically, a pack of hot dogs and a microwave.
Okay.
He created stuffed chicken wings.
Stuffed?
Yes.
With what?
He had jambalaya stuffed chicken wings. He had Thanksgiving stuffed chicken wings, which were stuffed with mashed potatoes and stuffing and gravy.
Okay.
He had mac and cheese stuffed chicken wings.
Whoa.
He had, what was the one? The jalapeno popper stuffed chicken wings. I can't remember what he named it. There were 7 or 8 of them. And he would make the filling with the ingredients and shove it into a syringe and inject these chicken wings. Woof. And you can only eat about 3. If you can eat 4 of them, I mean, you were really in for a good long nap. But 3, you were definitely full. And they'd have these crinkle fries with seasoning on them and a pickle.
And a pickle.
And then he ended up starting a company called Too Fat to Fly.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. and they actually opened in 2015. They were open for 3 years. They opened right outside of Williams-Brice Stadium in the left side of a gas station on Bluff Road. And they closed because Mo got hired as a chef for the South Carolina Athletics Department. But him and his business partner plan at some point in time, from what I've heard, in the next year or two, to bring back some version of this. They also had a food truck.
No.
And so he won't be able to do another brick and mortar. But if you're listening to this program and you've ever had the stuffed chicken wings from Columbia, South Carolina, Too Fat to Fly, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. They're the best wings I've ever had in my life. Ever.
Matt says Jungle Gyms is also good. I don't know what that is or where that is, but great.
That's what I just said, Jungles.
Oh.
Well, Jungle Gyms. was
You
the
didn't say
official.
gyms.
No. I know. But you called it Jungles. Like if you went to Jungles, it was just Jungle. Nobody ever said, are we going to Jungle Gyms?
Because then it's like you're going to a playground.
So you had Jungle Gyms in the back, and you had Jungle Gyms 2 up front.
Okay.
And Jungle Gyms 2 used to be a Chinese restaurant that was converted because the back bar was there was a you literally went in the men's bathroom to go to the restroom.
It's a good place to go to the restaurant.
And there was the stalls weren't even there was a pipe out of the wall that you had to find a way to go to the bathroom in.
Oh.
Number 1, of course.
Well, unless you want to be really creative.
I mean, I'm telling you, I've seen some things in that place I don't ever want to see again. Like when this coronavirus started, who was it that sent me this? I think it was Smoke. It was Smoke. Smoke texted me a GIF that said, "We survived jungles, we'll survive the coronavirus."
All right.
I mean, I'm telling you, it was bad. But Mo, that's where he got his start, and he started introducing these wings to guys like us who knew him, and then he opened a business, and there's the best wings I ever had, ever.
I trust you.
I mean, ever. So it's a good day. It's a good day. It was a breeze this morning, a month from football. We got chicken wing day. Celebrate in style. Get you some wings wherever you get your wings from. Dog and Duck. As Darren says, best wings in town in his opinion. And I'll second that. They are fantastic. And I'll give my buddy Aaron a free plug at Home Team because his smoked wings are just off the charts.
They're real good.
Off the charts. All right, 843-321-8893 is our phone number if you'd like to be a part of our conversation. Let's get to some news here to start the day outside of chicken wings and cool breeze. The Big 12 has announced that they will hold a virtual media day on Monday. So the Big 12 is full steam ahead, guys, with college football. That has just been reported a few moments ago by Brett McMurphy. Also, as reported just a little while ago, by Dennis Dodd with CBS, the ACC presidents essentially may or may not vote to approve a scheduling format today. That scheduling format is complete. We just don't know about it yet. Now, if the scheduling format is complete, that must mean that there are others like the SEC and Notre Dame who are in the know of what the ACC is planning to do. Now, the SEC, their presidents meet tomorrow. I think the ACC presidents are actually still meeting right now currently.
They could be.
Yeah.
If not, there's just some trickling out of whatever's going on in the meeting.
Okay. But the Big 12 and the SEC, according to Dennis Dodd, have both been on record as going forward with the season. And he's right. They've both said, we plan to play 12 games. We'll see. The Big 12 conference options right now are a full season, conference only, with multiple start dates to be determined. And then, and that, of course, that conference only would be a +1 model as well. And but they're going to wait a week to decide. Here is my point with the information that I just dispersed here on the air. I think that both the ACC and the Big 12 are trying to be absolutely sure before they announce anything of exactly what the SEC is going to do.
I think that's fair. What you're seeing with these schedules, Kelly Gramlich of the ACC Network put out something pretty generic, but it looks like, well, I'm not going to give you the exact teams because we don't know that. 8 ACC games, 1 extra game. There'll be 2 bye weeks, and it'll be played on 11 Saturdays between the 19th of September and November 28th.
And you know what? That really correlates with the timeline that I have kind of had in my head here over the last couple of months, really, Darren. I mean, we've talked about numerous options that have essentially kind of been on the table for how to do this. What that would be the schedule. That would be the plan. But at the same time, that could change a little bit. You know, if they have to back things up and use an extra week to play in December or something like that, they could do that. But that seems to be the safest way to do this. And we talked to David Cloninger about it yesterday. He mentioned that the SEC really has no intention and just no urgency to want to go to more than 8 conference games themselves. Why? I mean, they don't want to do that. If you're going to get a season in, they would rather try to figure out a way to only play 8 in the conference and then, you know, bring in a rivalry game or +1 or +2 model or whatever it may be. They don't want to make this more difficult on them by playing 9 or 10 conference games. And it looks like the ACC more than likely is probably going to try to stick with that 8+1 model as well. So, yeah, Darren, if you've got 2 bye weeks in there, that certainly frees up an extra week. We always have 1 bye week. Actually, last year there was 2 bye weeks in the season.
There are times that it works out, yeah.
So that gives you 2, but you can always adjust and grab an extra week or 2 if you need to get into the first or second week of December. And this also backs up the timeline a little bit if you need to back things up, because if students are expected on campus, that will give you ample time. If there are some positive tests from integration of football players and everyday students, to maybe be able to kind of come out of that a little bit and get ready to go in the middle of September. So if that is the case, you probably will hear an announcement once the SEC releases their plan. I think that these 2 leagues really want to make sure that the SEC is not going to, which I don't think they would, pull something similar to what the Big Ten did and just kind of go rogue, and here's what we're planning to do. They want to make sure that this is all in place here. Remember, the SEC has games against both leagues. I mean, they're the common denominator here. They've got, I think, 4 against the Big 12, and I know of definitely 4. No, they got more than that scheduled against the ACC. Georgia and Virginia are scheduled to play at the beginning of the year. Mm-hmm. So who knows what happens with that game, but we'll see.
Look, we've been hearing for a while that the Big 12, SEC, and ACC are doing everything they can to work together. So we may not get the exact names on the schedule. We may not get it perfectly in hand today, but we have the format of the schedule. I think you're going to hear very similar things. They'll probably reiterate it after the meeting today. You'll probably hear something similar after the SEC meetings tomorrow, and Big 12 Media Day on Monday, which is coaches only, so it's quite the media day. But I think all of them will stay in lockstep here and do everything they can to move forward together.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's close to lockstep as they can stay.
That's yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the question would be after that. I mean, so look, if that plays out, if you've got the SEC, the ACC, and the Big 12, well, see, if the Big 12 only plays 9 games, then they're only playing conference games unless they shrink the conference schedule. You know, see what I'm saying? So
anything's on the table, but they are. I mean, the Big 12 wants 12 games. So
yeah, well, just like the SEC does.
Yeah,
but I guess here's what I'm getting at. If you've got the Big 10 playing already announced, they're playing 10.
Mm-hmm.
The Pac-12 was actually set to release a schedule this week for their 10, and these are conference only. And then you'd have, we don't know necessarily yet about the Big 12, but if they play 10, that would leave the SEC and the ACC only playing 9, which is kind of odd to me, playing a game less than those other conferences.
And it's also, I mean,
doesn't mean it's wrong. It's
no, and it's possible that other conferences adjust their schedules as they've already announced, like the Big 10. And it's also possible that there are different numbers of games on schedules. This isn't going to be perfect. This is whatever we can get, we're going to get, and then we'll leave it up to the College Football Playoff Committee if, in fact, we get to that point to figure out how we're getting to the Final Four here.
Yeah,
we'll leave it up to them.
I mean, one of the questions out of that is, if the SEC, the Big 12, and the ACC elect to not play conference only, which it looks like it's leaning that way, then it becomes this major talking point later in the season of the committee and the decisions they'll have. You're talking about grading some of the top teams in the country based on only playing a conference-only schedule. and then grading some of the top teams in the country and playing conference only, but also getting a glimpse of what they look like against a team or two outside of their own league. So remember I said a couple weeks ago that the analytics would probably come to play a little bit more this year. I mean, obviously the eye test is there. That's why the committee is there.
Mm-hmm.
But all of these little formulas and things like that kind of float around that a lot of us, myself included, like to try to dismiss as much as we can because I'm not a big analytics guy. Some of that might become a little bit more important or valuable at the end of the season in those rooms with the committee.
They've got their whatever formula that they use and however precise it is, and you've seen and heard from various members of the media who have been allowed inside that room as the process goes along, or at least for mock processes as they bear it out. They've already come out and said very clearly that our being College Football Playoff Committee model for determining who makes the playoffs this year versus other years will remain the same. We may not have the same sample set. We may not have the same eye test of certain conferences playing against each other, but the bones of it all will stay the same. How we evaluate, how we pick the top 4 teams, it will stay the same.
Yeah. Okay. It's we're getting closer. If I said right now, Darren, in your opinion, the chances of playing a complete season and whatever it looks like, whether it's 9 games in one league, 10 games in one league, whatever it is in college football, what would your percentage be today?
Complete season? Oh, complete. I'm below 50% for a complete season.
Okay.
Do I think
I don't
it's
mean,
going to
start? I don't mean 12 games, right?
No, whatever.
Just complete whatever season.
Whether it's 8 or 9. Yeah. So I'm below 50 for that because it's hard to imagine as let's keep regular students off campus for the time being. It's hard to imagine as games start getting played and teams are traveling that we're not going to see some spikes and some type of pause at some point, like Bob Bowlesby's been saying forever. Do I think it's going to start? I think I'm more confident now than I was Monday. I mean, I'll go in the 70-75% range that it'll start.
Oh, I think
it's good.
I think it's 100% that they'll start. They're going to start football. Whether they complete it or not, I'm above 50%, but I've just kind of gotten there over the last few days.
Yeah.
So, but hey, that's good. That's a good sign.
Let's get it off the ground and let's see where we go from there.
Yeah.
Let's baby steps here.
Baby steps, no question. All right, J.C. Sherbert, he is ahead at 12:30 on our program. Last night in baseball, almost had another fight. We didn't, but we almost did. They socially distanced each other is what happened. It was social distancing.
Sort of.
Because I can tell you what, had Joe Kelly actually hit Alex Bregman, I don't think the social distancing protocols would have mattered a whole lot. Somebody was going to come out there and break the rules and punch somebody in the face for that.
Joe Kelly.
I mean, he threw some cheddar at that dude's head.
Lots of guys. I mean, this was repeated with this grin, this silly look on his face. I'm playing a video from last night right now of the final strikeout and just the little tongue wag over there at the Astros dugout. It was clearly taunting him. And remember, the Astros beat the Dodgers in the 17 World Series. The Astros who were banging trash cans and stealing signs. So this is the first time they've met. Fireworks were expected. And Dusty Baker's the Astros manager. This isn't over.
Oh, no. It's not over at all. I mean, the game was over. Dodgers won 5-2, but this is not over.
No.
Right,
No,
so
this will continue in some way, shape, or form. I don't know that Alex Correa is the guy that I want chasing me down. Look, whatever happened to the days where when you had an issue with the other team and you struck them out to end an inning, you just walked off the mound because they knew and you knew I won that round.
Let me ask you this. We're both well-documented baseball just diehards. It used to be, as teams police themselves, that going after a guy, not head, but in the back and the butt and the leg, going after him to hit him, sent a message, and it's over. Did Joe Kelly, 1, take this too far? 2, are you okay with the policing of the game that way?
With plunking a guy?
Mm.
Sure. Yeah, that's a part of the game to me. I don't have a problem with that. But I'm not all for throwing at somebody's head.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to play one thing now, which is foreshadowing maybe. So a couple months ago, Joe Kelly's wife added this video to her Instagram page. It's pretty interesting. I'm going to leave audio up with it as well. It's Joe Kelly. He's in shorts and a shirt, and he's got like a big golf target net out in front of him. I mean, massive, right? He doesn't hit it. No. Uh-oh. So after this, his wife takes you inside, proceeds to exclaim that he's been working on his changeup and broke the window. He missed his target by like 30 feet. If that's not subtly sending a message in the offseason, I don't know what is.
Somebody's about to get stuck in Houston in particular.
That was months ago.
I remember that video.
Yeah.
Well, the Dodgers did win last night, and they improved to 3-2 on the year. The Astros, of course, they dropped to 3-2. A couple other of notes, just in case you missed this, the Marlins, they will not be playing baseball as of now until Monday. They're canceled or postponed through Sunday. I think they did have one more positive test yesterday, but nothing today. Right, so I think that number got to 18.
I believe so. There was a clubhouse attendant who was attending to the Phillies clubhouse that did test positive. Maybe I have that reversed, but the players did not. The Phillies for the second straight day all came back negative.
Right.
And the Marlins, for the time being, are, whether they're 17 or 18, positive tests amongst the whole locker room or dugout. Some players, some staff, and their season is suspended through at least Sunday.
Yeah. Right. Indians beat the White Sox last night. That was 4-3, game one of a doubleheader. And guess what? They beat them again in game two, 5-3, a double dip. Hard to play in today's times, but they did it. Twins over the Cardinals, 6-3. Diamondbacks beat the Rangers. The Angels over the Mariners. The Rockies over the Athletics. The Padres, they beat the San Francisco Giants. Mets over the Red Sox. Red Sox pitching is just not good. And they are struggling. Only one win to start the year, 1-4. Pirates over Justin Smoke in the Brewers, 8-6 the final there. Cubs beat the Reds. And the Atlanta Braves lost to the Tampa Bay Rays, who got their fourth win of the year. Braves dropped to 2-3. Kyle Wright, there were questions about him after the game, and I thought it was handled quite well in Atlanta, saying, look, we're going to keep throwing him out there. He has to pitch, so he's going to pitch. And Kyle Wright did take the loss last night. Didn't look great early in the game at all, but he will continue to pitch. Royals, they lost to the Tigers 4-3, but those 3 runs the Royals scored came off of the bat of Whit Merrifield. The former Gamecock hit his second home run in consecutive days, so he's got 2 on the year and 3 more RBI to add to his total. I think he's hitting just a shade under 400 to start the season as the leadoff guy for KC. So good news for him. Bad news, though, that the Royals lost the game. So that is what last night looked like on the Major League Baseball scoreboard. Today on TV at 3:30, it's the Rockies and the Oakland Athletics. That game will be from Oakland Coliseum on ESPN. And then tonight on ESPN Plus, the Red Sox and Mets at 7:10, ESPN late night, 10 o'clock, Mariners and the Angels. So that is what you get on TV today with Major League Baseball. Garrett Cole, by the way, he will go for the Yankees today. That's news because of whom he will go against. Asher Wojciechowski will step on the bump for the Baltimore Orioles at 7:35 tonight in Camden Yards.
Asher was supposed to begin his season with the Orioles in Miami, 3 days ago. They canceled yesterday. They canceled the day before. So it was Monday night that Asher was supposed to have his season debut. So the former Citadel ace, first-round supplemental pick.
Yeah. He's got the ball tonight.
Yep.
By the way, the Braves will win tonight. Mike Soroka is on the mound. Just an FYI.
I mean, you've lost back-to-back. Yeah, the Nationals need to win, too. Juan Soto, back.
Yeah, he's back.
Second negative test, we should say, has come back. He is cleared to play, so he will be in the field behind Max Scherzer and the 1-4 world champs.
All right. That's okay. They'll start 19-31 and get it turned around. They'll finish 29-31.
Let me tell you something. 1-4 feels like 19-31 right now.
It correlates to like 2.7 and 11 or something.
Like 3-12 basically.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's right. They start in 1931. They finish 29-31 and miss the playoffs. All right. It is the lunch hour served by DB's Cheesesteaks. Remember, they deliver. It's the best cheesesteak in town. But it's chicken wing day, so we understand if you take a day off. We get that. So does Danny. But if you're not going to take a day off, dbscheesesteaks.com for that entire menu. And don't forget the boardwalk fries. We don't want to forget about J.C. Sherbert. He's waiting patiently. He'll join us next on the JB and Goldwater Show.
DB's Cheesesteaks, the tastiest, juiciest, and now award-winning cheesesteaks in the Low Country. DB's Cheesesteaks delivers, and not just in quality. Download DoorDash, Uber Eats, or your delivery app of choice and have it dropped off at your doorstep. Original chicken, buffalo chicken, even pizza cheesesteaks, not to mention incredible cheeseburgers, massive hot dogs, and dynamite hoagies. It's all there for you and your family. DB's Cheesesteaks in West Ashley. dbscheesesteaks.com.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risked their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Low Country. Our back nine is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit stonoferrygolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. stonoferrygolf.com.
What's up, everybody? This is South Carolina singer-songwriter Patrick Davis, and I might live in Nashville, Tennessee now, but guess what? I can always keep up with the news back in South Carolina because I've got the JB and Goldwater Show. Thank you, JB and Darren, for being live, loud, and online.
All right, 12:32. Welcome back to the JB and Goldwater Show. Live, loud, and online, as Patrick just said, from Nashville, Tennessee. But a little bit north of him is Chicago, Illinois, and that is where everybody's favorite Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle and his turtles join us now. J.C. Sherbert, owner of thebigspur.com, is part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Hey, man.
Hey, great to be with you guys today. Have my White Sox visor on, celebrating mediocrity as always.
Yeah, well, you know, so we're Gamecock fans. I mean, we're Gamecock fans, dude. Come on.
I'm used to doing it. Really used to doing it. I was so fired up, you know, because we hadn't had sports in a while, and I've kind of adopted the White Sox. I'm researching their players and talking to their fans, and you know, being encouraging to pessimistic Chicago sports fans, which is not easy. You know, they're just like, yeah, just, you know, give me a beef and a beer and then the hose, and I'll close the garage door. And, you know, it's terrible. So you're like trying to talk them up like we do in the South, like for the Gamecocks. You know, come on, man. It's not going to be that bad. We got a really good lineup coming back. And then all of a sudden reality smacks me in the face, and they're 1-4.
That's all right.
Everybody's like, yeah, told you so.
It's a long season, JC. They got plenty of time to turn it around.
Well, look,
actually, we're
about a quarter of the way
through already. So I don't know.
We just figured it out. The Nationals are 1-4, so it's like 3-12 right now. If you average everything out.
Well, the Expos are a fraud, so it's just
says the guy who just admitted, I just decided to adopt this team and go around and soothe the emotion. I mean, look. As a Gamecock fan, nobody better to soothe the emotions of a wounded fan base than you. So good for you.
Yeah, I guess so. White Sox fans are. I've learned up here too. It's like there's a lot of Cubs fans. It's obviously a major metropolitan area, but the Cubs tend to be more popular outside of like Chicago, and in the northern burbs. I mean that north south end of town thing is real. The north south thing is real in Chicago. And then, like, most of the people that are actually, like, from Chicago are White Sox fans, like lifelong Sox fans. Like, Sox, Bears, Sox, Cubs. See, they can't say Cubs right. That doesn't sound right. Hawks. I didn't know what in the hell a Hawk was when I moved up here. My girlfriend keeps talking about going to the Hawks game, and I'm like, I mean, that sounds like some German stuff or something like that. It's the Blackhawks. It's their hockey team. They call them the Hawks.
Yeah, they're good.
Hawks.
They're really good.
They are traditionally the best Chicago sports team. So, and one of my buddies loves the Hawks.
Hawks.
They play today. They play the Blues their hated Blues in a exhibition game. But he's we're gonna have to take him home in a wagon out of the bar once they start this mad dash through the Stanley Cup here in a little bit. So that'll be fun. Old Paulie. Shout out to Paulie. I doubt he's listening, but shout out to Paulie. Paulie likes the Hawks.
The Hacks. That's our
Hawks.
He probably joins that group of Tiger Woods and Dan Marino, all the major listeners we have around here. JC, let's dabble in some football here. Before we let you go, I do want to make sure I get a chicken wing note into you, because you'll probably know exactly what I'm talking about. But before we get there,
let me write this down.
Yeah. Don't forget, chicken wings are on the agenda today.
All right, please.
This was expected news, but it is really good news for South Carolina that Zaquan White is officially cleared academically to enroll at South Carolina, and if he's not pretty much already on campus, I'm sure he'll be there by 3:00 this afternoon. He's anxiously awaiting to get in and be a part of it. I mean, they're scheduled to start practice late next week, but the 6'2", 215-pounder ran for a little under 900 yards last year. At the JUCO level. I think it was Iowa Western in beautiful Council Bluffs, Iowa. And this kid originally had committed and played at Florida State, but there might be a reason why Willie Taggart is no longer the coach at Florida State, because he was a linebacker. And so I don't know that Willie knew that, hey, I can tote the rock. Why don't you let me do that? So he'll do that at South Carolina. But let me ask you this question about Zaquan, though. You put him in this group with Marshawn Lloyd. We all know what he can do. Most highly touted kid to sign as a running back in South Carolina since Marcus. And then you've got Kevin Harris and you got Deshaun Fenwick returning. You covered these guys in recruiting. We've seen them on the field. They have glimpses. We've seen glimpses of some really good stuff out of those guys. I personally think this is certainly the deepest group since 2012, when you had Marcus, Kenny Miles, Sean Carson, Mike Davis, Brandon Wilds. And then going back as far as 2004, when you had Summers and you had Dacus Turman and you had Corey Boyd and Kenny Irons on that, and he didn't get much playing time then, but Kenny Irons was part of that group, highly touted kid. Yeah. I think so. I think these are in the last 20 years, these are the three deepest groups I can remember. But I'm saying that with an incredibly small sample size of what we've actually seen on the field, because we've only seen a little bit of Kevin Harrison, Deshaun Fenwick, but we know the talent is there.
Yeah, it's the P word, the potential here, of this group. I can say this about Zaquandre White, and I covered recruiting for a long time, and you get feelings about certain things. And sometimes as analysts, White was ranked probably a top 120 player in the country coming out of his high school in Florida as a running back, legit four-star guy, signed with FSU. He moves to linebacker, and our tendency was and then he goes to JUCO and switches back to running back and is the number one JUCO back in the country. And our tendency is to Willie Taggart is a clown. And, that's probably true given Willie Taggart's career at Florida State. You're probably right on that. But sometimes I've noticed too, though, that it's not all quite sometimes it's well, you think a guy's really good and you're that coach doesn't know what he's doing. And then the guy may transfer someplace else and he's just as terrible. And you're well, I guess the coaches knew that one a little better than I did. But I don't know. Florida State was such a dysfunctional mess during the time he was there. It wouldn't even surprise me if he volunteered to go to linebacker or if they had a contest in the locker room and said, all right, whoever shoots this tennis ball in the trash can gets moved to linebacker today. And that's what happened. That thing was just a total, complete disaster of a dumpster fire under Willie Taggart. And so White goes to Iowa Western, which is a good junior college program. And he plays really well. And here he comes coming in. And so I think, when you sort of look at it, you can kind of say there is the potential. And you're kind of more comfortable with him being that guy that's sort of talented that the staff thinks is a great athlete that they can bring along, rather than having to rely on Kevin Harris and Fenwick and putting pressure on those guys, if Marshawn Lloyd, God forbid, something happens to him. So you do have a guy there that could be what they call these days an RB1 talent-wise. You can kind of put him in and let him go without having to put that pressure on Fenwick or Harris, which I like those two guys.
Mm-hmm.
And the staff likes those two guys. And Fenwick had some things he had to work on in terms of keeping his pad level low and running through contact. He was a guy that at his high school at 6'2", 220, whatever, speaking of coaches, they split him out wide a lot. So he's kind of a receiver that had to learn how to run between the tackles. Kevin Harris obviously hadn't stayed healthy. It wasn't healthy his first year. Even though he's a workout warrior, he had some injury problems as a true freshman. And then you have Rashad Amos, who they also like, who they're bringing in. So you sort of look at it from that standpoint, and that's a good thing. Am I going to anoint Zaquandre, and that's his name's hard to say, Zaquandre White as like, okay, this guy's going to come in and Lloyd's going to go for 950 and White's going to go for 800 and they're going to have this great rushing attack? No, I mean, because in all honesty, he's coming in from junior college. He could be a guy that is behind a Fenwick or a Harris for a while, or even an Amos. But I do think that the potential is definitely there. And when you have a bunch of options, like you mentioned, Jamie, I think that's huge in the Southeastern Conference. We've seen it at so many schools over the years because these guys go through the wars and they get banged up. And we've seen it at Carolina the last couple of years where, the first 4 years under Muschamp, I don't think there was a single time where you could say the backfield was healthy overall, 100%, for more than 3 or 4 games in a row at most. And so you need depth and you need those guys. So I think it's big that he got in. Obviously, the Gamecock fans out there, they feel like they never get a JUCO in. Well, they've gotten all but 2 in under Muschamp. So you can next time there's a JUCO commit, I don't want to hear, he'll never get in. I'll believe it when I see it. Oh, God. Yeah, I'll send him a White Sox hat in the mail.
The cesspool of the world outside of Twitter is message boards. There's in Facebook. Yeah, I agree. I think this is a really good group for these guys. Well, and most importantly, when you pair that with Mike Bobo. I mean, Mike Bobo, I think the best thing about Mike Bobo, we were talking to Michael Flynn about this last week, talk to Michael Flynn about this every week, basically, is that Mike can make adjustments based on the talent he has. I mean, I'm not going to turn this into a segment to degrade or downplay or criticize the job of Brian McClendon, but he was essentially a freshman as an offensive coordinator in the league with the most talented defenses in the country. And so when you script the first series, JC, as you know, and then you don't have much to go off of after that as far as adjustments go, you wind up with seasons where your last 3 games you combine to score about 13 points. That's not going to be the case with Mike Bobo, and he'll base – I mean, he's going to have his offense certainly, but week to week they'll do what is best for them based on the talent they have versus the defenses that they're playing against.
Yeah, and I think he's also good enough to adjust and understand that sometimes when you put everything out on on tape. This is why they don't run a lot in the spring game. When they play the spring games, people get upset. But this is also why Steve Spurrier didn't care about that, because he would just do whatever he wanted to.
That's right.
Is that once you put everything on tape, then it's easier to game plan for you. I mean, you noticed, Brian McClendon at times with the RPOs and stuff like that would run a very efficient offense. And then last year, the worst game was probably App State, because they would sit there and run it right. And the App State defense just knew where they needed to be. Those kids were in position. It didn't help. The offensive line wasn't all that good. But if you notice, they ran right into App State's defenders the entire time. That kind of malarkey is probably not going to happen in a Mike Bobo offense. And I also think too, a lot of Gamecock fans don't really know. They watch the Gamecocks and they remember the games Bobo called against the Gamecocks. And they maybe remember when they played Clemson, Georgia played Clemson, and they maybe watch Georgia every now and then. Well, here's the deal with that. as Bobo's career went along, Georgia went from being a team that you played a lot of 14-10 games with, and they weren't what you call high scoring, to one of the best offenses in the SEC. And so I think for Gamecock fans, they need to kind of understand this guy not only had to evolve at Colorado State because he had to personnel-wise, but he evolved at Georgia too. And people want to give him hell about that play call in 2014 at Carolina. Here's a newsflash. That guy was wide open.
Yeah.
Now, somebody missed a block, and Gerald Dixon or JT Surratt ran clean at Hudson Mason, and he one-hopped it to the guy. But that guy was wide open. It was a touchdown. So that wasn't a play calling issue, even though everybody's like, why didn't you just run it? And you could say, why didn't you just give it to Todd Gurley since you had Todd Gurley? But, so I'm looking forward to seeing it. It wasn't necessarily the direction, because I'm kind of the opinion Carolina needs to be sort of, like a Dan Mullen type offense, to be honest. I think that's the best type of fit for them, or some sort of spread, strategic advantage, special prep, but I'll say this, I do think that Bobo is going to be a huge step up, and people are just going to need to kind of be patient with it. And I think they'll like what they see.
J.C. Sherbert joining us from Chicago, Illinois. Well, in saying that, let's get to this. The SEC, at some point in time, Darren and I were discussing this, is going to announce their schedule. It looks like the ACC has theirs planned. We do know that there's an additional date that can be used now, which is August the 29th. Coach Tanner this morning was on with Teddy Hefner up in Columbia, South Carolina, and basically poo-pooed that. He said, no, we're not planning to do that, which would be 1 month from today. They're just not ready, and that's totally understandable. There probably will be some teams that take advantage of this. But saying that, JC.
Oklahoma, which has only had half of an offseason.
Yeah.
I don't buy that from Tanner, but I don't buy that from Tanner or the SEC or whatever. I would actually, if I were to move the whole – if you're going to play the whole season,
play it up.
I'd move the whole dang thing back. I mean, because then you give yourself even more time to reschedule and stuff like that. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're talking about moving it back like to August 29th.
August 29th.
Move it up.
I don't think there's any reason why they couldn't be ready to play. If they're going to play the scrub games now, and I don't mean to say scrub. That's bad. I shouldn't say scrub. If you're going to play the bye games like the Coastals of the world or whoever, if you're going to still want to get all those games in, which is what apparently Oklahoma's doing because they moved Missouri State back, then I think it's perfect because that gives you more time. That's the whole – it's like an accordion. You spread it out. But go ahead. What else did Ray tell Teddy?
No. Well, I was just referencing that comment to make this one. We had pretty talented guy, kind of awkward dude at times, but this guy Mike Morgan on the air with us yesterday, and we were and Mike said, point blank, and I really agree with him, JC. The SEC wants no part of playing more than 8 conference games. They don't want to do it because of the strength of the SEC. So, if they do that, if they only play that 8, obviously they could still plan to play a 12-game schedule. But if they don't, that would more than likely eliminate the Coastals and the East Carolinas and the Woffords of the world and things like that. Well, you're scheduled to start the season with Coastal and East Carolina. That acclimation period of a new offense with Mike Bobo needs those games. If you just jump right into SEC games, you've got much more of a challenge on your hand, whether it's Missouri, who's next on the schedule, or not. The challenge is Missouri, Kentucky, Florida, the way it lays out, games 3, 4, and 5. That's a challenge going right into the SEC, depending on what the schedule looks like.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you're South Carolina, definitely. That's playing it as scheduled is ideal. I mean, unless it's like a completely different order. And I was on in Tuscaloosa earlier today, and they were asking me about the schedule. And I felt like, I would be very disappointed if the SEC in 2 weeks says, all right, we're going conference +1 or whatever. And then they're sitting there going, Alabama's going to play Georgia the opening weekend, et cetera, et cetera. I've said this before. You need to get those division games out of the way. So I would be disappointed if Carolina, if they reshuffled it, had to open, and maybe they do open with Missouri, but I kind of tend to think it would be a little different with somebody else. But from a South Carolina standpoint, you're absolutely right, Jamie. I mean, having those games against Coastal and ECU are huge. Installing a new offense, you have a program that I don't care what anybody says doesn't have any confidence right now. Now, having a new strength coach and binding together over the summer and all that always gives you some confidence. But until they get out on the field and win a game, you're still 4-8. You still lost to App State. You still could beat nobody down the stretch, but Vanderbilt last year, your offense was still anemic. You were not competitive against your arch rivals whatsoever. And, you got a lot of work to do. So I think just like that New Mexico State game in 2000 helped South Carolina and Lou Holtz when they broke the losing streak, because some people thought New Mexico State would win that game. Opening against ECU and Coastal will definitely help the Gamecocks. And then if they could get Missouri on the other side of that, that's a perfect opportunity for a 3-0 start.
Yeah, absolutely. No question, JC. Did you have anything you wanted to add, or are you just listening and learning here?
I mean, I'm listening and I'm listening and I'm typing away and I'm throwing up these quotes from JC here. But I mean, the reality of the situation
he's a quote machine.
I am. I like doing that because
I meant JC. He throws out the
But
mustard.
that's also. I mean, I think every time JC's been on, he has produced the title of this show. And right now, you're the leader in the clubhouse as well. But
I noticed that sometimes. One was stop touching my fruit, and I was like, I almost didn't even want to retweet it. I was like, my God, how am I going to explain this to if my mom saw that tweet? What's she gonna?
Yeah, that was a good one. That was a good one.
CBS saw it. Like, wait, we're going to need to talk to you about that.
But
we don't need any trouble on that.
Talking about fruit, like fruit, it's okay, but that's. It's not where I'm going with this. Where I'm going,
honey, somebody touching your fruit.
Yeah.
That happened to me at the Publix the other day. This rude lady, she picked up my rutabaga and wouldn't let it. Then wanted a squash, and she went over there and got the squash. Did any of your parents say squash? My mom doesn't say squash. I just said that for comic relief.
Squash.
Yeah, my aunt.
All right, so football. Odds are decent, right? That the Gamecocks are not going to get those opening games to get some confidence and to get this offense in the flow. So how do you balance that when your first game is more than likely going to be something harder than a Coastal or an ECU?
Then you got to hope it's Missouri or Vanderbilt. I mean, that's what you got to do. Or let's say who's next. Who would next not be? They got Tennessee at home. Tennessee, would that be the next easiest one in line? I don't think I'd want to. Speaking of confidence, right now,
that's not.
You have ships passing in the night, and knowing them, if they limit crowds in Columbia, they'll bring They'll find a way to get 2,000 or 3,000 in Orange, don't you think, Jamie?
Of course they would. Well, I know who they won't forget. They won't forget the damn band, so they can sit there and play Rocky Top for 3 straight hours.
Bands may not be able to travel.
Not in Tennessee. They'll always figure it out.
They'll dress the band as
they'll have a dude up there
players.
with a fiddle and a piccolo and a pair of overalls with a squash.
I can tell you one thing. Tennessee ain't going anywhere without the band and Smokey. All right.
The Blue Tick House,
at the end of the day, they don't travel without the band. Forget the virus. They'll break every rule in the book. It'll be Smokey and the band and maybe the football team.
That virus there, them hills, it blocks the virus from coming down here from Tennessee.
With all due respect, though, I have been treated remarkable as well as I've been treated well anywhere in the country when I go to Knoxville.
I have so many friends. I have more Tennessee friends. I have more friends that are Tennessee fans. It's probably because I lived in Nashville for 7 years. But great friends that are Tennessee fans and Georgia people. Not so much. Other team from South Carolina just kind of, it's not intentional. It just kind of worked out that way. I'm like, everybody that I was friends with in high school ended up being a Gamecock. One guy went to Clemson. Then as I got to be an adult, I got some Clemson friends here and there, but I guess it's because like I said, I've lived in Tennessee and Georgia, but way more in those two fan bases than they are great people.
Yeah, no doubt. Sorry, did we answer your question there?
I'm not sure. But
to answer your question,
we got around it. Yeah.
At that point, what you want it to be is in order, okay? Because you don't want to start with Georgia.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Well, nobody does. I don't think Georgia wants to start at South Carolina.
Well, let me ask you this though, because if it's not in order, would you rather start at home with Georgia or on the road in Kentucky?
On the road in Kentucky.
No way. I'd rather be home against Georgia.
Home against Georgia, it would be me. I mean, because that would be, you kind of want to get your feet wet before you play Kentucky, I think. But then you never know. Kentucky sometimes understoops. If you look at those the scrub games they play, so to speak, there'll be an Eastern Michigan or somebody up there that'll have them on the ropes in the third quarter in Lexington.
And how much of a home field advantage is there going to be anyway?
It doesn't matter. We just struggle up there.
I understand that.
I mean, there could be 1 fan or 1 million fans in Lexington, and for whatever reason, getting off the bus is a difficult task these days.
It has been so the whole decade of the 2010s was a nightmare in Lexington.
I mean, that's where JC, remember, Darren, so everybody remembers beating Alabama in 2010. What they forgot is the next week they went to Lexington and lost when Lattimore had 6,000 yards and 3 touchdowns in like the first half, and he got hurt. And then it's like, oh, well, Lattimore's out. Pack the offense up, put it on the bus, and we'll worry about next week. I mean, it was mystifying.
I'd still rather play Kentucky than Georgia.
They were killing Kentucky. It was 28-10. And then for some reason, that defense in 2010 had a lot of good players, but there were times that they were susceptible to certain things, and they put Randall Cobb in the Wildcat and made some plays, and then Garcia was cold. And then I'll never forget, they dialed up a play to Lamar Scruggs to try to win it. With Alshon Jeffrey on the roster and Torrey Gurley. But that was a bad loss. We had just started the BigSpur.com. I was actually in the press box for that game. Very, very disappointing to say the least. And then they won in 2012 after being behind to a terrible Kentucky team at halftime, and then lost 2014, 2016, and 2018.
Yeah, it's been a good run. Well, that 2012 game, they beat the tar out of them in that one, but they were down 17-3 and came up and won. But they ended up winning 38-17. Yeah, they scored 35 unanswered.
That great. Team was terrible.
How often
Kentucky team was terrible.
Yeah, they were awful.
These conversations just dive into two miserable.
No, we're not miserable. Hey, can we pull the same stunt we pulled last week with JC, where we hit a timeout at the top of the hour and bring him back for 15 minutes?
Yeah, we can easily do that. I mean, you can stay on the same one. I realized with Zoom, here's a little behind-the-scenes tech stuff. You can go as long as you want, as long as you don't have 3 people on. We don't. We have 2, us and him.
Yeah, it's $14.99 if you want more than than if you have 3.
Yeah, but we're not inviting someone else on because you're stealing everything.
Now we're talking about.
I had to do that eventually because Mike and I had a guest on our podcast and I had to cut him off real early. So, hey, wait.
Depending on who it was, it might not have been a bad thing.
Yeah, always true.
You know what I mean? While we're getting into our business financials around here. Yeah, so JC, we'll go ahead and take a break here. When we return, I do want to ask you about the ACC's championship model this year as it compares to what we're used to in the SEC and what the ACC, of course, is used to, that the division model. But kind of want to get into a little bit of the history of that. We'll kind of bring the Big 12 into this conversation. Remember, they didn't even have a championship game for like 7 years. And so kind of take a look at that and how it could or could not affect Clemson in a positive or negative way this year. And I want to get to this chicken wings thing with you. You're going to know exactly what I'm talking about, so I want to make sure you're a part of that, if that's cool.
I'm looking forward to it.
You're like us. You got nothing else to do, so just hang tight for a second.
I'm Richard Gere from An Officer and a Gentleman. I have nowhere else to go. I have nowhere else to go.
At least you're not Richard Gere in Pretty Woman.
Well,
actually,
Julia Roberts isn't the worst.
I kind of meant the picking up the hooker thing, but
there are worse things like Knights of Redania when he was with an older Susan Sarandon, maybe not, or the one where he had the older woman and the younger woman at the same, the mom and daughter gross deal.
Oh yeah,
maybe not. And then Richard Gere in real life, of course, his escapades with gerbils. I certainly wouldn't.
Oh man,
be part of that either.
And you've got a problem with not touching fruit.
He was all right. He was doing well.
Yeah. The turtle guy comments on the gerbil guy.
Whatever happened to Louis Gossett Jr. too? By the way,
I need no idea.
Look that up.
All right, well, you got time. You got about 2 minutes and a national anthem to do it.
That's right. There you go.
All right, I'm going to go do it.
All right, about that break, we'll hit that, and we'll be right back.
Honey Baked Ham in Somerville and in Mount Pleasant is your home for catering and lunch. Honey Baked Somerville, owned by former Gamecock right-hander Mike Cisco, is just off the interstate and they are ready to cater to your next business or family meal. Plus, drop in for an incredible sandwiches daily for lunch. The Mount Pleasant location is at the foot of the Ravenel Bridge and always ready to serve and cater to your next meals as well. Plus, delivery is available. Honeybake.com to find your menu today.
What's up, guys? It's JB. Obviously, things have been kind of crazy with the coronavirus taking over our lives. We're stuck inside with family, finding ways to be creative and probably tapping the liquor cabinet a little bit. If you don't have Patrick Davis's Whiskey Jam in yours, put on your mask and gloves and head to Bottles or Burris liquor stores here in Charleston. The Blackberry is my personal favorite on the rocks, but the original Whiskey Jam is Patrick's. So either way, you're winning with Whiskey Jam. WhiskeyJam.com, PatrickDavis.com.
DB's Cheesesteaks, the tastiest, juiciest, and now award-winning cheesesteaks in the Low Country. DB's Cheesesteaks delivers, and not just in quality. Download DoorDash, Uber Eats, or your delivery app of choice and have it dropped off at your doorstep. Original chicken, buffalo chicken, even pizza cheesesteaks, not to mention incredible cheeseburgers, massive hot dogs, and dynamite hoagies. It's all there for you and your family. DB's Cheesesteaks in West Ashley. dbscheesesteaks.com.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risked their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon. Hi, I'm Chris Half, Public Information Officer at the Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum. We're home of the mighty USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, Clamagore, and Vietnam experience. And we're a proud partner of the JB and Goldwater Show. We invite you and your family to come see us and enjoy a day on Charleston Harbor. Visit patriotspoint.org for more information. And now, it is my honor to present the National Anthem.
Live, loud, and online.
All right, 102 Hour 2. Welcome back to the JB and Goldwater Show. July the 29th, a month from today, we could see college football in America. Darren Goldwater to my left, J.C. Sherbert in the middle of us, but in Chicago, Illinois. We'll bring him back in here in just a moment. I am Jamie. We are on the Podbean app. If you'd like to listen for free daily between 12 and 2 p.m., and you can watch us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Periscope at JB and Goldwater across all social media platforms, jbandgoldwatershow.com to find out much more about our program and about each one of us.
And if you're listening on the podcast, however you may be downloading, wherever, just like it, rate it. The numbers are shooting up for your downloads, which we greatly appreciate. But just like it, rate it, and keep doing that for the podcast and the video stuff.
No question.
Yeah.
We are alive.
Share the video stuff, too. That'd
Please.
be cool.
Please do. Yeah, we are a live program daily, but always available in podcast form wherever you may get your podcast once the show commences. Also, wherever you get your podcast, you can find what I think is actually the best one out there, which is the JC and Morgan podcast. And Mike Morgan joined us yesterday. JC Sherbert joins us every Wednesday at 12:30, and we're going to bring him back in for segment number 2 this week. This is the second straight week we've done this with JC. He's that talented, so we keep him around longer.
It's just because he talks so much that we can't get enough in.
Yeah.
I will agree there. I'm sort of a talker, which is why I do have that podcast, as you mentioned. Thanks for the plug.
It's very good. It is. It's very good. So let me. We've forget the gerbils and stuff like that. We'll leave that for another day. But and Richard Gere. But
Great.
So if Notre Dame becomes a 1-year member of the ACC, JC, which would obviously give them 15 teams, the information we have is that they will go to the top 2 teams will play in the conference championship game. There will be no divisions in 2020, just the top 2 teams. So when you look at that here in late July, you go, oh, okay, well, although they play each other in the regular season, the top 2 teams in this league, if Notre Dame's a 1-year member, would be Clemson and Notre Dame. So you might get a double dose of those 2 programs, once in South Bend and maybe once in wherever. Charlotte, is that where they're playing the ACC championship game this year?
Yeah, it's in Charlotte.
In Charlotte. So, and that could happen. You've got the Big 12. That is the Big 12's model because of the rule that was passed. JC, you probably have to refresh my memory here, but I want to say about 4 years ago or 5 years ago, saying if you have less than 12 teams in your conference, you can have a system in which the top 2 teams will turn around and play in the conference championship game. All others, of course, are division championships, cross-division championships, in which the SEC introduced this in 1992. I think it was Florida and Alabama in that first one there. I'm a fan of the division championship games, JC, but some out there have been growing – maybe tired of this model. Do you like the division championship games? And what will that look like for the ACC this year if Notre Dame's a part of it?
Serrano like it very much. Just to kind of quote Major League there, I am firmly against the push to just do the top 2 teams in the league. I think that, we talk about access, and we had a big, long discussion about division champions, and if you expanded the playoff, what would that mean for a division champion and who would have access on that first Saturday to a national championship, that first Saturday in December when a conference championship game is a de facto playoff game. And you're talking about expanding it from the 4 teams everybody always talks about to schools like Northwestern and Pittsburgh and Colorado and North Carolina and Duke and Utah and TCU. And I think that's great. Because the more people that have a chance, the more you're going to keep interest. Now, college football is not in any danger of losing interest. But, okay, so if you're talking about the ACC this year in particular, though, and the model that was hot and heavy a couple of weeks ago was that pod thing where they'd go with 3 pods of 5 and play everybody went home. And I still Clemson, nobody with 2 touchdowns at Clemson, depending on who was in their pod. But now it kind of looks like maybe they'll just go 10 conference games and see who the top 2 are and then play it off at the end. And so in a 15-team league like that, that's probably the better way to do it, just to be honest, because you don't have an even number to split your divisions up. I mean, what are you going to do? Go get UConn join the league for a year, and then so you can have, say, 8 and 8? I don't know. So just for this year in particular, I don't mind the ACC doing it because they have an even number. Do I think they should do that from here on out? No. And I know everybody wants to see it. I know using the SEC West, it would be great to see Alabama play LSU again. Although that wouldn't have happened last year. It would have been Auburn and LSU or whoever. It's probably actually still been Georgia. I don't know what I'm talking about. But, in some years when you have that bad East champion, or in Clemson's case, you're playing a 6-6 team sometimes for a conference title. Maybe it'd be a little better. But I'm a division fan. I like the divisions. You want to talk about rearranging them or whatever, rotating them, getting the schedules. The rotation of the schedule of the SEC is brutal. Get that different. That's fine. But, the SEC as a traditionalist, we all went through the 90s when the East was the best. And up until probably, guys, the rise of Alabama in 2008, the East was just as good or better as the West every single year. Now, Bama comes along and LSU rises and Auburn starts playing for national titles, and then everybody else kind of goes in the East. That's something that's not good. So, but I think it'll cycle back because all things happen in time. Eventually, Saban will leave Alabama. Whatever happens, happens. So I am not in favor of making rash decisions based on recent history. When you kind of torpedo, what's kind of made the league work and the secret sauce that makes it great.
Yeah, I mean, you just finished with exactly what I was thinking. I mean, everything is cyclical, right? So if you make a rash decision or one that's been thought out over 6-7 years and you make that decision now, you're just going to have to come back to the table in a couple more years when everything cycles back to the way it is or the way it was. And it's just a constant change. You may as well just go down the road with what's working now.
Yeah, like Auburn people they always talk about, man, we should really be in the SEC East. Our rivals are really Florida and Tennessee. Well, when you used to play them every year and got your brain beat in, you weren't really wanting to, that wasn't really favorable. You'd rather go play LSU, which was a very mediocre program for 20-something years, or an Alabama that couldn't hire the right coach. I mean, come on, and look, bless their hearts at all these schools. That'll all cycle back again. I mean, it's not, nothing lasts. A friend of mine told me, he was a big Clemson guy, by the way, one of my few Clemson friends. He told me, he's like, nothing lasts forever, man. He's like, we're just enjoying it right now. And I think that's the truth in life and college football and anything else. So that's why I'm not in favor of going, let's just take the top two. So, it's more even or whatever in the leagues that currently have divisions.
Yeah. Obviously, if the ACC does that this year, because they can't just plug Notre Dame into a division because you would have one 8-team and one 7-team division. So that won't work. So they'd have to go to this 15 top 2 model, similar to what the Big 12 does, but with 10 teams.
And I'll add this. The Big 10, do I think that's sort of dumb? What they did with their division? I liked it better when they had the Boy Scouts and the champions, whatever the heck it was called. And they had Michigan, Ohio State on opposite sides. Now all their great traditional powers are in one side of the league. And that league probably could talk about it more. I'm sorry, I just wanted to add that in.
I agree as a Penn State fan that's a league that could fix things a little bit better.
Well, I tell you who else in that division, the East now of the Big Ten, would probably like to be moved. That'd be Rutgers.
To what? To the FCS?
Rutgers.
Look, man, I love Rutgers fans. There's about 30 of them.
One of them typically listens.
Really?
I don't know if he is now.
No, when I was doing national recruiting, that was one of my favorite teams to cover because it was during Schiano, and Schiano gave them hope because and Kyle Flood to a certain extent did too, because Kyle Flood's a heck of a coach. That's a tough job. He's at Alabama now, signing 5 stars, but they were very competitive recruiting the state of New Jersey. And so I'd get on Bill King's show in Nashville. And it's on Sirius for a while when I was at 24/7, and I would talk about them. And they call me like, I just want to say this, J.C. Sherrich, y'all said he's talking Rutgers. Rutgers is going to be good, aren't they, JC? And there are about 4 or 5 that would call and hit me up on Twitter, and I feel for them too. And I'll pull for Rutgers every time I watch them. So I don't know.
Well,
the celebration of mediocrity should be the title of the show today.
Yeah. Don't know.
I don't know. I mean, Hawks is pretty close too.
But I would. If I'm Rutgers, I'm definitely petitioning to move somewhere other than where I am right now, and because even Indiana and Maryland are pretty good.
Yeah.
In that division at times. So you really just don't have a chance at all.
Yeah, Indiana's certainly turned it around. What about so what type of, Darren and I went through this list the other day. You got the Big Ten. If you say, all right, give me 2 national championship contenders out of the Big Ten. Clearly Ohio State's one. The second, right off the rip for me, is Penn State. And I'm not just saying that you're sitting here. I'm just thinking this top of mind.
Reality,
yeah. And then if you want to mention a couple others, whoever, if you want to mention Wisconsin or Michigan or whomever, that's fine. But my point is, all those teams have roadblocks. You go to the Pac-12. If you've got Oregon as a national championship, or at least as a playoff contender, Oregon does have roadblocks in the Pac-12. Southern Cal is expected to have a better year this year, and some other teams out there certainly could be fairly challenging, like Washington. We'll see what happens with those guys and others. You go to the Big 12. Oklahoma has roadblocks they have to get through. Texas has roadblocks they have to get through. Certainly, we know about those in the SEC. Clemson didn't have those. But if Notre Dame is a member of the ACC this year, they will have a roadblock. How big, though, is that for a team that I think it was just a foregone conclusion they were going to be in the Final Four?
Well, and it also depends if they're going to a 10+1. Who are those other two? Because right now, who are Clemson's teams from the other division? Virginia, catching them at the right time, right?
Yeah, and I think
and then they play Georgia Tech every single year, which,
Tech, yeah.
talk about cyclical things. That's sometimes a very tough matchup in history until Paul Johnson decided, he was going to run the option, come hell or high water, and recruit like a Southern Conference program for 5 years and then say, hey, I'm leaving. See ya. I'm gone. Bye. Go Jackets. But who else are Clemson's other teams are going to play? And I'm assuming because Notre Dame was a 9th game, Notre Dame is 1. So there is the board, but are they going to have to go to Blacksburg and play Virginia Tech? Are they going to maybe have to play Miami, which with De'Aaron King at quarterback now and a new offense, you hope should be more than the incompetent, bumbling buffoonery bunch that they were at the end of last year. So how much is that going to change the dynamic? And then are you going to have to beat Notre Dame twice? And that Notre Dame game's I think it's in November in South Bend. You have to turn around and play them again in Charlotte. Now, all that said, Clemson can handle it. I mean, I don't know doubt. That, depending on, who they actually get, I think they can handle it. I mean, because even if you draw, like most people are picking North Carolina to win the Coastal. If you draw North Carolina, do you think for a minute North Carolina's not going to have their attention this year after what happened last season?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah.
That game's going to be 63-10. I mean, I'll call it right now. Clemson may hang 70 points on North Carolina next year if they get the chance to play them. I've seen this movie before, so but that's who they're going to play. I mean, playing Virginia Tech could be tough. I mean, playing Miami could be tough, and then you have Notre Dame, and then you got to play another team again. So it does make it a little more difficult. The fact that Notre Dame's already on the schedule as a quote unquote non-conference game, though, I think doesn't change anything dramatically. And then they still have South Carolina, so.
Yeah,
we'll see what happens in that one.
Yeah,
but, it's I don't know how much it changes, but it kind of just depends on who they draw.
Do you mentioned that South Carolina game? Do you think there's any shot at all that you mentioned already? You said already on our program probably about 30 minutes ago that what's most important in the SEC, in your opinion, is to play as many of those division games up front. Well, obviously Clemson and South Carolina, that we know that D-Rad and Rete want to do everything they can to play that game. Is there anything at all that rings in your head that says, then you know what, they might try to go ahead and move this game up and play it at the beginning of the season to make sure they get the rivalry in?
I would say it would depend on what everybody else is doing. And Gamecock fans, don't get mad at Ray Tanner because I said that, for goodness sake. Because that's what they're going to do. Oh, yep, Ray's just going to wait and see.
Yeah, fire Coach Tanner.
Everybody else does. I wish he's awful.
Yeah. Ray woke up today. Let's fire him.
Yeah, that's a good Lord. No, that's not what I'm saying. I think that, it depends on what the conference schedule looks like, because the priority does have to be with the division games. But what if there is a deal where they say, okay, we're going to play in the conference, we're going to start the division games like September 19th, and everybody's going to play a non-con to get ready, because that's the type of thing the SEC will do. They will say, we need to get ready, before, we'll play a non-con week before we do this. And in that case, if they really want to get it in, and Georgia really wants to play Georgia Tech, and Florida State, Louisville, Kentucky, they will say, that would be a good time to get it in. So
I don't know what happened there, but no, I heard you.
I do.
Oh, okay. 117, JC. All right, before we let you run, we'll have a little bit more fun with you because we haven't had enough. It is National Chicken Wing Day. It's also National Lasagna Day, but I would advise against trying to celebrate both of those at the same time. So let me take you back to a place that's quite warm in our hearts, and that is Columbia, South Carolina. So when I was in school, a guy that I knew very well, who was one of the bartenders at the dirtiest, crappiest bar at 5 Points, Jungles. Or many of them, you might know.
My kind of place.
Jungle
been
Gym.
there many times.
Been there many times. Seen a lot of things I'd rather never see again in Jungle.
Can't unsee those. Yeah.
No, you're right about that. But do you know who I'm talking? Do you know Mo? You remember Ramon?
I've heard of him and I've seen him before. I've never got to be friends with him or anything.
Okay, yeah. So him and Carlos. I don't know if you remember Carlos. They were the bartender. Everybody knew those guys really well. Do you remember the stuffed chicken wings that they started?
Yes.
Yeah, that's where I'm going with this, because they eventually Mo started the business, Too Fat to Fly, and they closed a couple of years ago, but they were right next to Williams-Brice in that I think it's a BP gas station right there on the corner of George Rogers and Bluff. They were on.
I know Too Fat to Fly. I've had those. Those are delicious.
Unbelievable. It's National Chicken. I was telling Darren, I said it's the best wing I've ever had. Did you have a favorite? My favorite was the Thanksgiving wing, but I liked them all.
I had that several times. I think Thanksgiving would probably be my favorite as well. I'll go with that.
The mac and cheese.
Mac and cheese was good.
Jambalaya.
And it's inside of the chicken.
I wasn't a jambalaya. The jambalaya wasn't right to me.
Okay, probably because of the rice. There was rice stuffed in there.
Yeah, it was
probably threw you off.
How much of the wings are gone, like the chicken meat, just to stuff it with whatever?
No. So they inject somehow the skin or stretches or something. They don't remove any meat off the bone.
It's not like a baked potato, Darren.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
no. You're not. It's not like a baked potato or one of those peppers your mom bakes.
Yeah, right. With the stuff in the side. Right.
It's not like anything like that. It's legit. Yeah, and I was like, I was probably, because the few times I was in jungles when I was in college, I was more of a group therapy guy. And I had a bar called Tavern on the Green in the building I lived in.
Yep. And
so I kind of spent a lot of time there because it's right across the hall, stumbling distance. I didn't go to jungles a lot, but I remember that. But I remember the Too Fat to Fly, though. That's a completely different period of my life.
Yeah. The Too Fat.
Yes, you're right. They're delicious.
Well, they're good.
They were delicious. And I'd said all that about I like skinnier chicken wings last week and stuff like that. But those are that would be kind of an exception. To me, that's more of like a gourmet delicacy than like your standard, like give me 30 and some ranch and let me just go
to town. Yeah.
You
can only eat 3 or 4. They used to give you 6 of them at a time. It was impossible to finish all 6.
It's like a buffet meal. It was like going to the Golden Corral.
Yeah, but stuffed into 3 chicken wings.
Into 3 chicken wings. Yeah, it was like literally because you could be like, here's my. Get my stuffing here,
I'll tell you what we used to do, and JC will know this very well, because you used to not be able to buy alcohol in Columbia on Sundays.
We had that problem, too.
They changed that while I was in school and allowed you to do that. I guess it was my group probably that prompted the change. But or maybe it was things like this, because they were finding that kids were there is a statute of limitations for people to get in trouble, right? It's not on me. It's on them.
Yes, it's gone.
Okay, all right, good. Because we used to go knock on the back door of Jungles on Saturday afternoon, and and then we'd buy all of our alcohol, and we'd buy some stuffed wings and go back to the house and watch football.
Sounds like a good plan.
They loved it.
Oh yeah.
I was living in Spartanburg during the Prohibition, I guess. We call it the Prohibition, the Sunday Prohibition. And we'd either go like Tryon, North Carolina was right across the border. There's a place called Side Street Pizza. It was just packed every Sunday night. Nobody could figure it out because the pizza wasn't all that good. It was crowded, but everybody would have their beer sitting out there, hey, Side Street. Woo!
That's right.
And or you just go to a gas station up in North Carolina. But Columbia, you'd have to go to where? Augusta?
We had, there was a guy.
Charlotte to get beer, I guess.
That far?
You had to get,
I guess you got to get out of South Carolina.
It was a county rule. There were multiple counties that did not allow it.
Yeah.
So you had to get through those counties to go. Because we had a guy who would go to, he would drive to Augusta and load up his truck and come back sometimes.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
One of the worst things about traveling at the lower levels, like the D2s that I've done these last couple of years. Now, keep in mind, it's been a blast. The people are awesome. The campuses are great. I've fallen into a few dry towns, and you get there and you say, all right, so, where's the best place? And get these forlorn looks on their face looking at you like, well, you got to go across the border. Like, no, what do you mean across?
Yeah, those places are kind of weird. I mean, Starkville, I think, was in a dry county or dry town for a while. There's one college town you wouldn't think about it, but it is. But they're kind of like they're on a border of another town, so it's kind of, you don't really notice it because the bar district's somewhere else. I'll have to research that.
I know Cullowhee, North Carolina is dry. Right?
That was one of them in my SoCon days. They are now, I don't know if it's Sundays only or no more, but they now have a very good selection of craft beers around Cullowhee.
Oh, yeah,
I would be worried about people drinking and driving on those roads around Cullowhee. I would just assume
it's dangerous.
It's kind of scary.
Don't drink and drive anyways.
Lord,
stupid.
Probably not a lot of Ubers in Cullowhee either.
No.
No. Well, I've said that to my family multiple times. I'm like, look, we should just move to Maggie Valley where my family has a mountain house and just be Uber drivers. Because there's especially in the winter, everybody goes up there and skis and stuff, and you got to go up and down the mountain. Just get, make sure you have 4-wheel drive and Uber up and down the mountain. Good plan.
I went to see Ron White at the Cherokee Casino, Harrah's, and we were staying in Maggie Valley.
Yeah.
And we took a Ron White touched my girlfriend's butt. That was kind of funny because we went backstage.
It's not
He's
shocking.
Like, he's like, hey, darling. And I was like, yeah. Anyway, we couldn't find an Uber after. I mean, it took 37 minutes, and we finally got a taxi from the casino to take us back to Maggie Valley. So I know exactly what you're talking about. That's a good business idea.
It is. I'll give you a shout and see if you want to throw some.
We'll go back in on that. Yeah, I'll call it the JC and Gold. No, I see the JC and JB transportation specialist.
Yeah. There you go. And
Failed sportscasters.
We'll serve stuffed chicken wings in the car. We'll deliver stuffed chicken wings to the mountain communities and provide transportation services.
Yeah,
and beer.
Yeah, right.
And beer on Sunday.
If you've been fired in the sports industry world, come work for us.
If you've been fired, yeah, come on.
Yep.
So,
all right.
anyway.
When's the podcast coming out this week?
Mike and I are actually off this week. He was on Facebook. Apparently, he was tubing earlier this week.
He was whitewater rafting. We talked about it yesterday.
Sometimes we go every other week or something like that. I do have my Gamecock podcast. I'll give a shout out. Inside the Gamecocks podcast. It's one of those things I do about 3 or 4 times a week. I'm also on the Locked on the Gamecocks podcast tomorrow. It's the 500th show of that podcast, which I actually helped to start.
Yeah.
So I'm coming back for an special anniversary edition. And so I'll be there on thebigspur.com. But yeah, anybody out there, if you want to go give JC and Morgan or Inside the Gamecocks 5 stars and write a nice review. There's some people with some bad reviews on there. Don't get me wrong, but they don't like yours truly.
That's normal.
But do that for me. That really helps and all that if you like listening to me talk and do my thing.
I was actually on that on Keith's Locked on the Gamecocks last week. Thursday.
Yeah.
Friday.
We kind of recycle people and all that, but I think kind of in our Gamecock college sports South Carolina market ecosystem, there's a definite need for like a bunch of different shows and programs and podcasts and all that because it's just such an underserved market and such a passionate fan base.
Yeah. Well,
hence the reason we launched the show.
And,
yeah.
Well,
with guys, I'm like, some people are like, why are you going on Keith's podcast? You got your own podcast. I'm like, well, I don't care. I was like, we need more than just me. I mean, I can't get on. I can barely talk about the Gamecocks for 2-3 hours a week, much less 8 hours a day.
We promote each other. That's what's good about it.
We put them out each other in a big happy family.
That's right.
That's right. Yeah.
Oompa.
Big loving happy family.
I'm not Greek. Don't I had a Greek boss. I used to deliver food for Sammy's Deli in Columbia.
Yeah. Oh.
That was my job, and I worked for Sammy. He's like, Mr. JC.
Good gig.
Mr. JC.
Good gig.
And it was funny because you got euros. We sold euros there, and he called it gyro.
Yeah.
I did too until I was corrected.
Claimed he was from Greece. But he's really from Libya. He just didn't want anybody to know because, Gaddafi and all that. Because he came over in the 80s.
That wouldn't have been good.
And so he just tell everybody, I am from Greece, brother. You want gyro?
Yeah.
You want gyro? I loved him. He came to my wedding, my first wedding. There hadn't been a second one yet, so my only wedding. And he had a great time, and I'll never forget that guy. Great guy. And I certainly hope he's doing well.
Between him and Singh, who owned Jungle Gyms, Singh, he was a Chinese guy. It was, if you ran into either one of those guys, you had to pay attention because you weren't going to get it all.
Yeah,
exactly.
You walk away and it was great, but it was it was a lot of fun, man.
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
This has been a lot of fun as well, JC. Thank you so much. I know we kept you a long time today, but a lot to get to, and hopefully when we talk next Wednesday, we might really actually have a clear path to college football. We might have some real answers. I think we will.
I'm looking for, hopefully maybe we'll have some schedules to break down, schedule changes, all that good stuff. It'll be great.
Yeah, actually, the good stuff. No doubt, man. Have a great day. Go Sox, go Turtles, all that type of stuff, and we'll talk to you next Wednesday.
All right, guys. See you.
Thank you, man. There you go. J.C. Sherbert in Chicago, Illinois. Patriots Point presents the national anthem every day at 1 o'clock right here on our program, patriotspoint.org. For more information, holycitydrivein.com for this weekend's drive-in movie schedule, Friday, Saturday, Sunday night. over at Patriots Point, the home of the Laffy, the Clamagore, the Vietnam War exhibit, and the USS Yorktown, which has lit up the skyline of Charleston, South Carolina for decades. PatriotsPoint.org. If you're going to visit Patriots Point. All right, so we're going to hit a timeout. When we return, we've got some Mike Tyson stuff to get to. We've got some golf stuff to get to. We've got some college football notes we need to squeeze in here. And then there are new rules in the sport this year. Darren has been kind enough to put together a little thing.
Yeah, how about a one-pager? Bullet points on some of the new rules.
There you go, a one-sheeter.
Yeah.
That's going to go right here in the middle of us. And one of those rules in particular, very controversial last year in the Auburn-Alabama game. And some are calling this the Nick Saban rule. We'll tell you why.
He's got that power, huh?
He does.
Who knew?
He does. We'll tell you why when we return.
DB's Cheesesteaks, the tastiest, juiciest, and now award-winning cheesesteaks in the Low Country. DB's Cheesesteaks delivers, and not just in quality. Download DoorDash, Uber Eats, or your delivery app of choice and have it dropped off at your doorstep. Original chicken, buffalo chicken, even pizza cheesesteaks. Not to mention incredible cheeseburgers, massive hot dogs, and dynamite hoagies. It's all there for you and your family. DB's Cheesesteaks in West Ashley. dbscheesesteaks.com.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risked their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffy, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Low Country. Our back nine is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit stonoferrygolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. stonoferrygolf.com.
Hey everybody, what's going on? This is singer-songwriter Patrick Davis, and I might live in Nashville, but whenever I want to keep up with the South Carolina Gamecocks or even the Clemson Tigers, I can still tune in to JB and Goldwater because they are always live, loud, and online.
And I sing hallelujah. I do believe it's happening.
All right, 131. Welcome back to the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online from Kelvin Bilodeau at Channel 5. Real quick, Arkansas has just defeated South Carolina 6-1 to win the Dixie Majors World Series. So South Carolina comes up just shy this year, but traditionally Kenny Wilkinson and that program win it. Didn't do it this year, though. Mike.
Yeah, it's muted on the board. I got really excited. You said from Kevin Bilodeau, Arkansas and South Carolina. I'm like, wait a second.
Dixie Majors World Series.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
We're talking Dixie Major baseball. It's still important.
Threw you off there.
You did.
All right, let's dabble in a couple of quick football notes here. Penn State, as of July the 24th, newly released information via Brett McMurphy, has conducted 466 COVID tests of student-athletes, 8 positives, and there are still 66 pending. So 400 have been read to this point, and those other 66, we should have info on that. So not too bad there for your Nittany Lions, Darren. Congratulations.
They've done pretty well.
Well
far.
done.
I think this is the first time there's been any type of significant number, and it's 5, 6. So they've done all right so far.
Yeah. Certainly pretty good stuff there. If you missed it last night, Lincoln Riley has agreed to a new deal at Oklahoma. It's an extension. It's really a 2-year extension, but it's a 6-year deal this year through the 2025 season. So Lincoln Riley, he's expected to hang tight in Norman, Oklahoma. This is an interesting situation. At the University of Arizona, offensive lineman Edgar Barola has been suspended from the football team for violating school coronavirus protocols. This is the first time we've ever seen this, literally, in our lifetimes. Barola confirmed the suspension on Twitter and said he stopped receiving his meal plan the day he was suspended. He also said his stipend has been taken away. He started 6 games last year at right tackle and then had shoulder surgery in January. Here's what Kevin Sumlin had to say to the Arizona Daily Star, quote, "If you're not going to pay attention to the protocol, wear a mask, and all that other stuff, then we're not going to have you around," end quote. Good for Kevin Sumlin. Hey, here are the rules. If you break them, you're gone, at least for a little while, and that's the case at Arizona.
We're seeing it in other leagues. We haven't seen it at the college level, but
No.
there are plenty of stipulations for the professional leagues, including fines and quarantines, like we just saw in the NBA to go get some Magic City wings.
Yeah. Apparently, those wings are well worth it, from what I've understood.
I just threw a picture up here on the screen. They look outstanding.
Here on this National Chicken Wing Day, somebody's going to be celebrating at that strip club. All right. Also, at Florida State, they have dismissed former five-star recruit Callan LeBourne because of a violation of team rules. That was announced last night by the Noles. He was ranked 4th among running backs and 36th overall in 2017, and that was part of Jimbo Fisher's final signing class at Florida State. Of course, he joined the program, and he was alongside Cam Akers, who actually has had a pretty decent career down in Tallahassee, but he has had injuries, and he certainly had off-field problems. This is not the first time he's been in trouble with the Noles football program, but this trouble now has gotten him kicked out of the program, and it looks like Texas A&M transfer Jason Corbin will now be the likely starting running back at Florida State. So it was expected that LeBourne was going to start for them, but Mike Norvell has said, "No, sir, you will be moving on."
Norvell's got to have a pretty tight leash right now after what happened with the comments that he had met with the team, and then Marvin Wilson said, "No, you didn't." Then we hashed all that stuff out. I mean, we got a really thin line here for respect to be kept on both sides.
Absolutely.
So whatever happened.
Real quick, this is not sports news, but it's great news. If you happen to be a Jack Daniels fan, get ready to buy a new bottle because they're about to introduce the Jack Daniels Eric Church single barrel.
You're going to buy a case.
I will be in line at 9 a.m. on August the 1st to buy that. It will be in all liquor stores across the country starting August the 1st. Again, if you are just tuning in and you're saying, "Hey, well, what's going on with the schedules? Didn't the ACC meet today?" Yes, they did. It does appear that their schedules are in place, but they are not public yet. Probably won't hear about them for another week unless it leaks, and it probably will, to be honest with you, because everything does. But we do know the SEC presidents are planning to meet tomorrow. The Big 12, they're planning to move full steam ahead, as we all know it, at least temporarily. So it looks like the ACC probably going to wait and get some more information from the SEC and some others. I don't think they are waiting on the August 4th Board of Governors meeting. That meeting has no bearing on what they do.
No, they're waiting for some of the other conferences, some being the Big 12 and the SEC, just to make sure everyone's as much in lockstep as possible. We don't know the exact teams, the exact schedule. We do know the framework. It'll be September 19th through November 28th. It'll be 8 ACC games and 1 extra game.
That's
so
what
8
we
plus
think.
1. We think.
Yeah.
Kelly Gramlich put that out from the ACC network. So that's I'll pause what we know with what is probable. Let's go with that.
Yeah, just
8 ACC, an extra game, and that would leave 2 weeks as bye weeks.
Okay. And potentially a September the 19th start, right?
Yes.
Well, that would leave September the 12th to be able to watch the fight between Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. And that fight, according to sources, as tweeted by Greg Rosenstein yesterday with The Athletic and covering boxing, would cost $49.99 on pay-per-view, and it can be streamed through all cable, satellite, and Triller. I don't even know what Triller is, but if you have satellite or if you have cable, you will be able to purchase this for $50 when the 51-year-old Roy Jones Jr. and the 54-year-old Mike Tyson would battle.
All of it goes to charity, I believe.
Yeah.
Neither guy is going to take a purse in this. So
That's what they say.
yeah, exactly. So if you buy it, theoretically your money is going to charity.
Is this worth $50 to you? What was the last thing that somebody bought and it ended in like 6 seconds? Wasn't that?
Oh, like a UFC fight.
Yeah. Ah, man. I tell you what I'd do with this. A couple buddies say, I tell you what, we'll all split it, $10 a piece. All right, I'm in. I don't know that I want to spend $50 on that for myself.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
And then if you want to get really creative, you can get creative. There are other ways.
Yeah. $50 September the 12th. So if we don't have football that night or football that you care about, but if we do, make sure you got multiple TVs because Iron Mike is back, baby. By the way, I just quick off record here. When I grew up as a kid and Mike Tyson fought, you paused everything in life to watch Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson, you and I have talked about this before. There are some of those can't miss sports figures when they are doing something you're watching. Tyson was in my generation since I've been on. Tyson, Tiger Woods' heyday, and even now, if Tiger's in it on Sunday, everybody watches. We all know that still. Jordan in the finals or in the playoffs period. And I would throw this one in there, 2008 Olympics, Michael Phelps. Name one person that wasn't tuned into the TV and yelling for Michael Phelps.
There is a new either docuseries or movie coming out. Phelps is a centerpiece of it, about Olympic athletes who saw tremendous success and their struggles afterwards. That one I just saw a preview of or read a preview of it. It looks pretty enticing.
All right.
I mean, a lot of these folks have had serious depression, things like that. We know Michael Phelps has and how he's battled it and come back from it.
Doing really well. He's a great father now as well. Also, real quick in golf in prime time, folks. Next weekend, CBS will televise coverage of the PGA Championship from San Francisco Saturday and Sunday night. Coverage will end right around 10 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday evening. That is fantastic. It will also include live drones, fly cams, 4D replays, and top tracer technology. Those 4D replays are literally when the camera can follow the ball in the air and kind of twist around it and watch it spin rotation, all this stuff. I mean, it's the most incredible. It's like a video game.
Because of the lack of fans, and PGA is exploring bringing a couple hundred back, but because of the lack of fans, technology is able to flex its muscle a little bit. We saw it with actually the tennis tournament that was here at the Volvo Car Open when they had, I forget the exact, Credit One Bank Invitational, I think that's what it was, with the women's tennis players. They had solid technology. We've seen it on some golf telecasts already with some of the drones that have been used because the danger of the worst case scenario, something goes wrong and a drone flies into a person, it's basically gone. So they have the ability to play with new toys, and it really looks good.
There's been a drone flying around my house every weekend. I'm trying to figure out if somebody's after me or if it's just the neighborhood kids toying around out there.
Someone's watching you.
Yeah. Not good.
Speaking of Tyson, I saw this meme, and I'm throwing it up here on our stream right now. Have you seen the Evander Holyfield wearing a mask meme?
Oh, yeah. I've sent that to a bunch of people. Did I not send that to you?
You may have. Someone sent it to me. I don't know, but I just threw it up.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Mike Tyson. Holyfield with
Really
a mask
good.
on one ear.
It's really good.
Yeah.
Some big Low Country news. About 3 hours ago, Scotty Eisberg, Jeff Hartzell, credit them. Scotty, of course, at Channel 4. Jeff at the Post and Courier broke this. If you're not from this area, it won't mean anything to you, but this is a big deal. High school basketball coaching legend Ronnie Dupree, he has retired 33 years as a high school basketball coach, 614 wins combined between his stops at James Island and West Ashley. He certainly will be missed. I want to throw this baseball stat in here, too, and then we'll get to the college football rules changes for 2020. I saw this. This is incredible. The Pirates won last night. I mentioned this earlier in the program, 8-6 over the Brewers. What I didn't mention is that it snapped a 241-game losing streak when trailing by 4 or more runs in the 7th inning or later. They were trailing 6-2 in the 7th inning last night. This streak began in 2014, and no shocker here, it was the longest active streak in Major League Baseball. But that streak is now over, so go Buccos, right?
Good for them.
Whatever.
They got long histories of droughts.
Yeah, I know. Hopefully we won't have a drought in college football this year. If we do see the sport, we'll see some rules changes. There's one in particular. We're going to get to that in just a minute. A lot of this is just, kind of stuff, and you really won't notice most of it this year, but we certainly want to make sure that you know about these rules changes in 2020. Certain ejected players will actually now be allowed to stay on the sidelines as opposed to years past. And I think, Darren, you do probably have our little one-sheeter up on the screen, right?
I do. So essentially, you can now use the number 0 if you weren't aware of that. Targeting, if you are now disqualified is the word, as opposed to ejected for targeting. If you are disqualified, you may stay on the sidelines. If you are ejected, that would be 2 flagrant fouls, that would be fighting, something like that, then you actually do still have to leave the premise. The other one that I know you are keen on, or at least how it works, is instant replay at the end of a half or end of a game, which would also be the end of a half. If the clock expires at the end of the half and replay determines there was time remaining on the clock and that the clock would start on the referee's signal after the review, there have to be at least 3 seconds remaining. Otherwise, the half is over. So if there's 2 seconds or 1 second left, then they just eliminate those seconds from actually being played. It's interesting.
So let's explain this. I'm going to give you an example of this, and some of you might remember actually when this happened in the Auburn-Alabama game, the Iron Bowl in 2019. This is if a clock is running. So here's what this means. You've got a running back who maybe has passed the first down marker and gone down. Well, obviously in college football and stayed in bounds, okay? You have to stay in bounds, but the clock stops when you complete a first down in college football. Well, what happened last year is there was one time expired in this Auburn-Alabama game. But they went back in replay and determined, they have a second left on the clock. And so the officials told both Nick Saban and Gus Malzahn, all right, we've got a second left on the clock. The clock will run once we blow the whistle. So Auburn had their special teams unit ready to go, and they hurried them out onto the field. They got set up, and then they blew the whistle, snapped the ball, kicked a field goal to end the half. And Saban, of course, was pretty frustrated. And after the game, he said that the official on the sideline leaned over to him and said, they're not going to be able to get this off anyway. So here was the issue with that. Because the clock went to 0 and then went under replay, and they determined that there was a second left on the clock, everything was stopped, and that allowed for teams to make their adjustments to get their special teams unit onto the field. In this case, it was Auburn. But Nick Saban's argument was, wait a second here. If they would have stopped the clock on time with 1 second remaining like they should have, they wouldn't have had a prayer of getting that special teams unit out there to kick a field goal. But the clock was stopped, and that allowed for the change in personnel. So what they've done is what you just said. Now, if it's under 3 seconds, you don't have a shot. It's over. If it's 3 or more, okay, you can go out there and you can either, spike the football or try to run your unit out there or whatever you plan to do.
Whatever you're going to do, you can snap the football.
Yeah, snap it however you'd like to do it. But last year, Auburn actually made that field goal. Auburn won the game 48-45 last year. 3-point difference.
So here's what's uncomfortable for me. The rule clearly states if in the event of a replay and things stop, then time stops at that point. So if a replay is necessary with 2 seconds left in the half or 2 seconds left in the game, and the clock is then stopped because of that, you should be allowed to then restart. You should be allowed to snap that football back like Auburn did and kick that field goal because the clock was stopped in order to facilitate that happening in the first place. You can't just say, there were 2 seconds left and now they just don't exist.
Yeah.
I don't like that. It just doesn't sit well.
Well, it's a running clock, so so we have to keep that in mind in this conversation. Remember, it's a running clock no matter what. And, I mean, obviously the clock stops because it's a first down. It's not like they ran out of bounds. If they ran out of bounds, the clock is stopped. We know that. But if it's a running clock, the clock is stopped. I don't disagree with you. Actually, I agree with what you're saying. I think that the reality of that happening is really, really low because if somebody goes down, the clock operator is not going to let 3 seconds tick off.
Hopefully.
You know what I mean? And if they do, obviously, everybody's going to know. I mean, everybody's paying attention in that moment there. So, there is certainly some concern there. I think this rule is more along the lines of if you happen to miss it by a millisecond or two, basically, and allowing that 1 second, it's impossible to run up there and snap the ball with a second. We know that.
If there's 5 seconds left and we run a play, and the play is a handoff to JB, and you dive across the line. You need 2 yards for a first down, and it puts you that much closer to a field goal range. You dive across. There's 2 seconds left, and then whoop, maybe you're not across. Now we need a review. Are you actually across? Okay. Now the review comes back. You can't get a first down.
No, that's different, though, because you're reviewing the spot of the ball. This is just reviewing the clock. If you're reviewing the spot of the ball, you're okay.
So it's only a clock review.
Yeah, it's only a clock review here. That's it.
Okay.
If you're reviewing the spot of the ball, no. The spot of the ball, absolutely, you get it from where it was stopped. No question about that.
It's good clarification. I still don't like it.
Yeah, because I had to look at that earlier too. I was
Okay.
like, all right, if you had a half a yard to go and you've got not 3 seconds, but you're right, 5 or 6 seconds or something like that. Well, literally, you just have to stand up and just clock the football, and you could do that within a couple of seconds.
Right.
Wait a second here. Absolutely, but if they're reviewing the spot of the football, no, that's not on you. That's a clock issue. It has to be a clock issue in order for that rule to be enacted.
So again, it's a good clarification.
But that's on the officials there, right?
Because it is on the officials, and it could be a very easy mistake, one that can be corrected with review. So use the same example. We dive across the line of scrimmage. We clearly get the first down, and the clock runs out. Oh, wait. Let's go check and see when was the knee down. It is first down. Turns out it was 2 seconds. You should still be able to run that play. You got the first down. You got 2 seconds left. Clearly, you would be able to run up and maybe spike the football, something. I mean, it doesn't sit well with me.
You know what my question would be with that is if you had a situation where it was technically a clock situation and you had a coach who was savvy enough to think about this in the moment here. Let's say, Coach Muschamp, when this happens with South Carolina, and they go, Coach, you're under 3 seconds here. The clock's going to run off because it should have been a running clock. What if he challenges and says, no, I'm challenging the spot of the ball.
Sure.
I'm going to challenge the spot of the football. I don't care what the clock said. I'm challenging the spot of the football because you should have stopped it not based on a clock issue. You should have stopped it because it was a first down. See what I'm saying?
Inside 2 minutes left, do you have the ability to challenge right there?
That's the officials. I know the officials have it, but I think you still have it, right? You just don't have to, as long as you have a timeout.
Okay.
It's on the officials.
It's on the officials to do it.
It's on the officials to do it. This could be. Well, we need to
This is going to get messy.
We need to get a rules expert in here.
Oh, we can.
Yeah, I have one in mind. You might have one in mind.
Oh yeah, it's probably the same guy.
This is also interesting. Penalty carryovers. How about this? All penalties at the end of a half will have the option to be carried to the ensuing kickoff and to the succeeding spot in overtime. So at the end of a half, if you've got if defense, jumps off sides 5 yards and it's a 5-yard penalty, they jump off sides, you get a 5-yard penalty. You can take that penalty if nothing happened in the play and add that penalty on to the kickoff if it's for the opposing team or for you, or if you're going to overtime, add it on or take it back.
So imagine you're on the 45, so you're not close enough for field goal range. You're down. The game's tied, so you heave up a Hail Mary, and the clock expires, and there's PI on the Hail Mary.
Yeah, you have 15.
You get 15 or half the distance right there to start overtime. That's a massive change.
That's a big change. Absolutely. Jurisdiction of officials, this has also changed, and this really changed because of the Kentucky game last year before the Belk Bowl when they played Virginia Tech. If you don't remember, Lynn Bowden, who's got some issues of his own these days off the field, Lynn Bowden, amongst others, got into a fight, and he threw a punch. But what happened was this was over an hour before kickoff on the field.
Correct.
Officials take over 60 minutes, at least they used to, prior to kick. So they could not throw a penalty on Lynn Bowden, and that penalty couldn't be utilized in the ballgame. Clearly, he would have been ejected from the game before the game even started. But because this happened before the 60-minute before the 60-minute time frame in which the officials take over, it didn't happen. Now, officials have to oversee action on the playing surface beginning 90 minutes prior to kickoff. So just think if you're in a place like, Athens, Georgia, or Alabama, or South Carolina, and it's the middle of September, and you've got a noon kick or a 3:30 kick, and you're out there for an hour and a half in the heat. That should be fun.
I think a lot of fans actually don't even realize that the officials have some authority this far in advance of the game, but that is why they're out there, to prevent things like that incident with Kentucky from happening. Yeah. So they just decided, listen, we need oversight longer here. We need oversight when the players are on the field so that we can enforce a penalty. I mean, the fact that you couldn't enforce a penalty on that is crazy, but there were no officials on the field, and you can't.
Maybe this will help prevent some of those penalties. There are new pregame warm-up requirements as well with coaches. I'm going to read this. All players' jersey numbers must be visible during pregame warm-ups, and an assistant coach or the head coach must be on the field during warm-ups before team captains are escorted to the field for the coin toss. Now, this could change the game day routine for kickers and punters, because usually they're out there on the field. If you get there early like I do, with some teammates, but without the entire team, and a lot of them don't have jerseys on. They're just out there kicking and punting. Some of them don't even have shirts on. Assistant coaches, of course, they're usually in the locker room 2 hours before the game, and they usually send team managers and equipment managers out there with kickers and punters and things like that. Now you have to have a coach out there. Kickers also now will be required to be supervised by an assistant coach. So if you are out there as an assistant coach, you have to watch the kickers. Well, I don't know why that's in place, but there's a reason for it. And that jersey number, if it's not visible or an assistant coach is not guiding them during warm-ups, they have to leave the playing field.
That, to me, is a pretty easy fix. A kicker can go out without pads and throw some type of jersey on with a number, and you're going to be fine. Take whatever assistant of your 30, paid or unpaid, and just say, look, dude, this is now part of your job. Yeah. You're going to go stand out here for a little bit.
We're going to petition the NCAA for another on-field coach, but this guy will only be on the field before games.
Yeah.
He won't be out there actually during the game. All right, and then this one I want to make sure we mention as well. Defenses will be allowed to have 12 or more men on the field, quote, to anticipate the offensive formation. But, of course, they need to have 11 on the field when the ball is snapped. This rule change also a direct result of something that happened in the Auburn-Alabama game. It was a trick formation in which Auburn lined up its quarterback at punter and its punter at receiver on fourth down late in a close game. Alabama kept 12 men on the field trying to substitute players before the snap, but they were charged with a foul. That resulted in a first down for War Eagle, and that was able to ice the game on the ensuing set of downs. So basically, some of these offensive coaches, like Gus Malzahn, who's really creative, they're sending just different, God only knows what out there, and you're going, well, now wait a second. Who the hell covers the punter? You know what I mean? Something like that. So now you're allowed to have 12, and then once you get it figured out, you can run that 12th off the field once you get your defense basically set.
It's similar to what has been. I mean, defense is allowed to adjust personnel based on what offense brings onto the field anyway. This just allows a little bit extra time.
Yeah, well, that extra time can also come back to bite you, because if they look at it and go, hey, snap the ball, we got 12 on the field. But I do think that this will be controlled by the officials to a large extent, where they're, okay, we'll let you okay, now one of you has to go.
Yeah, and I don't think they're going to allow you to get out there and line up. I mean,
no. Yeah, it's just an organizational thing.
Right. Like you're in a huddle just off the sideline.
Right.
You can't throw 12 out in your defense and then pull one guy off.
Right. Yeah. Be clear on that. So those are rules changes here in 2020 with college football when it starts in 1 month on August the 29th. At least that's what we are hoping for in this moment. Tomorrow, Corey McCartney, he'll join us live from Atlanta, Georgia. Good day for him. We'll get in plenty of baseball with Corey. Obviously, a bunch of Braves news. Talked to him certainly about the Marlins and what else is going on. His take on early in the Major League Baseball season here. Scott Glaze tomorrow as well. We'll talk to him about a bunch of golf. The SEC presidents are meeting tomorrow, so we could have some news from that. I don't think we will. I think the news will come from the conference commissioner based on the information he receives from that meeting in the coming days to follow, maybe Friday at the earliest.
I think later Thursday and Friday will be a heavy news day, because I think other conferences will react to what's happening with the SEC, with the ACC, the FCS Group of Five type conferences. I think there will be a lot of reaction Friday into the weekend, next week. I think a lot will be clear, like we talked about with JC. When we get to next week, there will be many more answers than we have now. There'll still be more questions than we have answers, but we'll have a longer list of answers than we do.
Absolutely. Yeah, we will. This will be the real domino effect as opposed to what Kevin Warren and the Big Ten tried to pull off a few weeks ago. I think the SEC is absolutely going to be the tipping point for future decisions to be made in college football. And I anticipate those decisions will be very beneficial to all of us as fans. That's what I anticipate.
Okay. I'm in. Let's get some football being played.
By the way, North Carolina, they're similar to Michigan in the fact that they have canceled season tickets. Only single-game individual tickets will be sold in Kenan Stadium.
Yep. Meanwhile, Ohio State is trying to figure out 20% capacity, which is about 20 grand.
20,000, yeah. All right, thanks to J.C. Sherbert for extended time today and for Darren for all of his hard work as always.
Thank you, man.
It is Wednesday.
Wing Day.
It's National Chicken Wing Day. Enjoy it somewhere.
I will. Dog and Duck, Bell Hall.
That's right. Have a wonderful Wing Wednesday. We'll be back tomorrow at noon on the JB and Goldwater Show.